parents and the children could have fun together.
Please board quickly and safely. Our monorail will be departing momentarily.
Welcome to the My DVC Points podcast. Join the conversation as DVC members share their stories, personal preferences, and magical memories. Your reservation is confirmed, your fast passes are booked. Pull up on the yellow strap because our journey into the magic of membership is about to begin.
To infinity and beyond.
Now, here's your host and curator of magical stories, Chad Pennycuff.
Welcome home, neighbors, to the My DVC Points podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at dvcrentalstore.com. We're doing a mini trip report in today's show. We're going to be talking about going to Aulani and going over to Villas at Disneyland Hotel. A little insider secret. If you've never been to Aulani, and even if you're not a member, Disney's not selling out that resort. The reason why they're not selling out the points in the resort is they make serious bank on the cash rate rooms at Aulani. So we're talking about a little bit about Aulani today. If you want to go there, insider tip, pro tip here, you can rent another member's points through dvcrentalstore.com and pay about half the rack rate that Disney gets for that resort. Insider hack, because Aulani is the best bang for our buck, value for our points in all of DVC. And when you rent another member's points, you can come back in and get in on those incredible savings. So if you're not a member, if you're out of points, rent some points, go to Aulani. It's amazing. You'll thank me later. It is by far my favorite DVC resort of all times. Like I can't say enough great things about that resort, but I do in every other show. So we're going to limit it to that. But today's show is my trip report and my fourth in my series with Lynn Mettler from Families Fly Free. And I'm doing end of the program. Like the name of her program is Families Fly Free. So I've done it, but it took me a year and a half to earn all the points, book all the stuff, and take my family on a complete trip with this. So Lynn, welcome back to the show. And before we get started, Lynn, if you go back to the third installment of this little series with you, it was Lynn was right. This one is like, oh my God, Lynn was exceptionally right. Dialed in, nailed in. Everything she said was just like perfect. I just didn't experience it before. So I didn't know how right you were, Lynn, until I actually put it all together and started doing it. So I'm not worthy. Welcome to the show.
I'm just, thank you for saying that it worked so well. And I'm just glad that it did work so well for you. And you've been able to do some great things, with your family. So that's my goal, is to help more families travel more.
Part of my goal as well is really at the tail end of this trip, I snuck down a trip to see my family in Nashville. And I shout out to my cousins, Kristen, Kelly, Casey, and Vicky, and was telling them about the trip and how I used points and miles for it. And I heard them go, we can't afford to travel. And that is the mindset right now. I love my cousins dearly. I am going to link the show to them. But this show is all about, hey, I don't buy that, right? You guys all have white collar professional college degrees. You're all gainfully employed. You got great spouses that are working and contributing. I don't understand why you couldn't pull this off, knowing what I know now from working Lynn's Family Fly Free program for a year. And just so you guys know, this is an expensive training course that she has. Like you're going to make an investment into it, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and go, this summer, I had to redeem at least $10,000 to $12,000 worth of value in all of this. So Lynn, how do you want to start to break this down for people?
Well, do you just want to tell us what you did this summer and how you accumulated the points and in order to do it?
Let's start off with that. So we'll start off with the travel goals because that's the fun part. We wanted to do a family vacation to Aulani back, and we had it all planned in the middle of the pandemic. That got delayed. And when we went to Aulani, it was still in Hawaii lockdown mode. They were one of the last places to free up and come out of COVID lockdown. So we said, hey, we need to go. We want to go again. And this was Reagan's final trip with the family. She graduated high school. Next week, we're taking her off to college. And so we knew this was probably our last hurrah as a family of five to be able to come in and pull off a vacation. So I wanted something epic on the books. Like I said, Aulani's my favorite resort. We wanted to go back there. We talked about going to Disneyland Paris, and then we looked at it this summer and went, ooh, the Olympics are in Paris.
Right.
I don't want to go anywhere near Paris when the
Yeah.
Olympics are there.
I agree.
So no. So we went back to our dreams to Aulani. Little pro tip secret here. Flights from Detroit to Hawaii are insanely expensive. It's a lot cheaper for you to buy a round trip to LA, and then the LA to Honolulu market is extremely competitive. So you can save a lot of money sometimes by saying, hey, can I do a layover trip? And so that's what we ended up doing. We bought a round trip tickets for 5 people from Detroit to Long Beach, because Long Beach is only 20 minutes from Disneyland and an Uber ride. It's a real tiny, small, quaint airport. It's nothing like LAX. You get off the plane in LAX and you need to allow an hour and a half to get your bags and get off of the airport property. With Long Beach, you're going to wait 15, 20 minutes for your bags, 10, 15 minutes for an Uber, and 20 minutes, and you're going to be at Disneyland. And
Yeah, we love Long Beach, so I have to second that. And I have been checking it a lot this summer. And inevitably, it's cheaper, at least from Indianapolis, to fly to Long Beach than it is to LAX.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. On Southwest, that seems to be their darling gem of Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And the prices are always cheaper to go into Long Beach. But not only that, Lynn, I also found a direct flight on Southwest, which is mind blown for me because I don't see direct flights on Southwest anywhere I want to go. But there was a direct flight from Long Beach to Honolulu coming and going.
Yeah.
So to me, that was like, okay, I can fly into Long Beach, rent a car there. And that's what we did. And we went to Universal up to the North Hollywood section for 3 nights. We stayed in Hyatt Points at a Hyatt House LA Medical Center there through the Chase program and got some phenomenal deals there. It was over 2.5 cents a point in terms of the value that we got there. And we rented a car, and then we went to Universal Hollywood for a day. And we did a tour of the stars' homes one day and kind of bummed around Hollywood. My daughter's going into food and culinary and like registered nutrition stuff now. And so she wanted to go to Erewhon's, which is like the bougiest of bougie grocery stores. They like cater to the upper echelon Hollywood type. So we ended up going to 2 of those while we were there, 2 different ones, so she could try different stores and see all that. And that was a fun experience. I ain't going to lie. I didn't enjoy it as much as she did, but hey, it's, checking off on her bucket list, right? So from there, we did the day at Universal Studios Hollywood, because last summer, Lincoln and I went there and we ended up buying annual passes because he just kept going, I got to bring mom. Super Nintendo Land is the bomb. I got to bring mom. So I was like, okay, well, enjoy dad who brought you here. Okay. But he really wanted to bring his mom. And so we just made our day tickets annual passes so we could come back next year because it was a little bit better value. And then I think we ended up going in 3 days last year and then 1 this year. So we had 4 entry days there. I don't know. It was like $300 for the ticket, and it's north of $100 a day per person to get in. So we got a little bit of value there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so after we did our Hyatt stay there, we went back to Long Beach, had a direct flight to Honolulu, got another rental car there, and went to Aulani for 5 nights, and then came back to Honolulu. We were going to island hop, but at the end of the day, we just felt like we wanted to just stay at the resort and not island hop. Maybe next year we'll come back in and we'll just go to Hawaii and we'll hit 2 to 3 islands with no LA part in there. But for right now, no island hopping on this trip. And we wanted to. And we could have really easily, because Southwest does all of those super cheap $60, island hops that are there. And people do intraday island hops where you grab like a 6 a.m. flight out, you grab like a 6 p.m. flight back, and then you go explore another island for 5 or 6 hours. And it's a beautiful thing.
How busy was Hawaii this summer?
It wasn't like super, super slammed and crammed.
Mm-hmm.
But we really stayed at Aulani, which was super slammed and crammed. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's Aulani. And I think we ventured off into a mall one day, and then we went to North Shore one day, and then the girls went back to North Shore another day because they wanted to get permanent bracelets and they needed an appointment to get those put on. So that's kind of what we did there. And then we took a direct flight from Honolulu back to Long Beach. And then we had 3 nights at the Villas at Disneyland Hotel. And I'd actually bought points there to replace the Grand Cal points I sold when I bought the house in Florida. And that was like 100% my decision to do that. Like the rest of the family wasn't fully on board with it. They were like, if you want to, we'll go along with it. And so that shocker of a story is they absolutely fell in love with Villas at Disneyland Hotel. We went to a 2-bedroom there, which the 2 bedrooms there are like extra posh and extra like high end from the studios. It's like it's the difference between Saratoga. Well, Saratoga got a nice upgrade too, but it was like the old Saratoga and the new Riviera. That difference. This is like new Riviera plus level of decor and theming and everything else that goes with it. And it is over the top Disney. Like we had a Fantasia room. Some of them are Princess and the Frog, Jungle Book themed. You are not doubting you were in a Disney hotel with this one. Like it is like Disney there in your face, and it is awesome because that's what we fans love. So anyways, that was the trip, Lynn. And
that's an amazing trip.
Yeah. So like you're probably talking $400, $450, $500 a person round trip from Detroit to LA. And then when I started booking the Southwest deal, the Southwest flights were like $700 round trip, and I got them down to like $390-ish by following your systems and repricing it and doing all of those other kind of things.
Yeah, make sure, everyone, that you always check a Southwest flight after you book it to see if the price goes down, because like Chad's saying, I mean, almost always I save points by continuing to check it as much as you can stand it. Like I always say, check at least on Tuesdays. That's when prices tend to be the lowest. But it's so easy to check on the app when you're standing in line or waiting in the car to pick up kids or whatever. I try to check every day if I can remember.
Yeah, the pro tip there is you have to spreadsheet it, because when you're talking about like flights, like I would look at my Southwest calendar and, I would have 10 or 12 flights booked on all of this craziness. So I had to spreadsheet it so I knew exactly what I paid for it, because Southwest doesn't make that really clear and obvious on their website.
Well, and if you haven't added a companion, you can just click change. Like you can go to your flight and click change, and it'll tell you if the flight is more or less than what you originally paid. But if you have added a companion to the ticket, you can't do that. That's the easiest way. And then like you're saying, you need to know, what did you pay originally? So when you check it again, has it gone down? And then what I recommend doing is just calling Southwest, because they're 99% of the time very helpful, and just having them reimburse you the points difference, the amount that it's gone down.
Yeah. So let's dive into this little golden nugget where I tell you guys, Lynn was really right. This was our first time flying with Companion Pass, and the rules are if there's an open seat, your companion can get it. But we got worried that there wouldn't be seats there, and our dates are not flexible. Like I had to book at 7 months Aulani, and those are my dates. There was no wiggle room in there.
Yeah.
And the Villas at Disneyland Hotel, no wiggle room in there. Could I cancel and rebook a Hyatt on points? Yeah, I'd find something else in the city someplace. So that one I had some flexibility on, but 2 out of my 3 stays, I had zero flexibility. And we're new to the system, right? So it's like, Laura was just like, I think you should need to add the companions now. And okay, so I did.
Yeah, I always recommend adding your companion if you have the right flights and you're taking a companion, because it has literally happened to me where I didn't add the companion for this reason we're saying, because it's easier to check if the price has gone down, right? And then for spring break, and then went to add the companion, flight was indeed sold out. Could not add the companion. We had to completely change where we were going, because now it was too expensive to rebook the flights to a different flight where we could add the companion, right? So yes, I agree. Add the companion and just write down what you paid for it and check it that way.
Yes, that's what I ended up having to do there, because this was a direct flight from Long Beach to Honolulu. And I told you my experience with Southwest and direct flights. They're like a ghost. They just don't exist. Not in my world. Okay. I'm super jealous for all of you who live in a Southwest city and can have that right there available to you. But in my world, Orlando's not a hub. Detroit's sure as heck not a hub. And we're connecting wherever we go. So yeah, that rare unicorn from Long Beach to Honolulu, I could not mess that up. And so that's what I ended up having to do. Now, the downside to that is price you see online is usually cheaper than what the call center agents have as their way of enticing you to do it all online. And so there was a couple of times that, because I think I reshopped this and got this like 3 or 4 times down. And there was like the final time, the lady just told me, well, if you want the lower price, I can take away your companion. You can rebook it yourself and then add your companion yourself. And I think that's what we did, Lynn. And it saved like, I think another 20,000 points. It was insane.
Well, that's worth doing for that. Yeah. But that always makes me nervous. That's why, it's Southwest. If you call and online it says it's 20,000 points lower and they don't have that, that's silly. They need to fix that for you. Like I would hang up or be like, here's one of my pro tips is ask them to check with the help desk. Because they will often go, let me check with the help desk and see. It's because they've hired so many new people, I think, in the last couple of years, they don't all know everything correctly. And we see all the time, like in our community, like someone had posted recently, that they just told them something wrong, like that there were blacked out dates for something or another. And Southwest never blacks out dates for anything, like for a sale maybe, but you can always book anything in points. And then he, later on had to call back, got a different person, and they were like, no, that's not right. So always hang up till you get someone who will help you. And you can always ask them to check with the help desk. That sometimes helps, but you definitely want 20,000 points. But it makes me nervous to remove.
Well, that
your
was also
companion,
20,000 points across three
people.
Yeah,
it's
3
like,
people round trip.
Re-add the companion because someone books your spot in between you taking them off. That's where I'm always nervous. So I always call Southwest and make them do it for me.
Got it. So yeah, so just little things that you learn. It like I said, when I came back into it, everything that you've taught me, Lynn, I knew it in theory, I knew it in my head, but until you actually fly Southwest, until you actually deal with the customer service agents and you got a couple of these underneath your belt, you don't realize the wisdom that you're really given. Because it's like I had sea legs. You know what I'm saying? They worked, but they were kind of wobbly because I just didn't have faith and confidence in myself in doing it. Now I've got like 1,000% faith and confidence in myself in doing it, and 1,000% faith and confidence in your stuff, and you're gonna help people fly free. And the whole thing isn't just flying free, but then it's like all of these tips and tricks into stretching the points. Because a lot of people just would have paid the $700 worth of points and been done with it. I got mine down to like under 400 by the time we were said and done. That was a lot of points that came back into our account.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's just a lot of great ways, tips and hacks and tricks that you can play on Southwest, all following their rules. Just knowing how to, as you say, work the system, to really pay significantly less than the published points price that you see, from the get-go. So, and that allows you to then take more trips on the same number of points, which is key. Trying to get as many trips on, as few points as possible.
Yeah, because we're just trying to manage our resources and stretch every dollar, okay? Or stretch every point as far as we can.
Right. Yes.
Now, I'm not able to get your levels of, we got to Hawaii for 6,000 points a person kind of thing, but I think you had some.
You will at some point, though, is the thing.
Yeah, maybe
some long enough, you will have that happen.
Yeah. So I mean, we still paid a decent amount of points here, but also at the end of the day, Lynn teaches a system where you get a transferable point card that's flexible from Chase, one of the Sapphire cards. And then you get 1 or 2 of the Southwest cards, depending on the promotion and the deal that's going on. Like Laura got 2, but her companion pass was good for 2 full years doing this. I got a trial companion pass like a year ago in July, and it was good for the rest of last year and all of this year. So my companion pass expires in December, and I'm really a sad panda about that, Lynn.
Yeah, once you have it, you can't go back to not having it. Yeah.
So if you're listening to the show, there will be a link in the show notes We're just going to call this episode 302. So mydvcpoints.com/302. And if you're listening to the show and this makes sense to you, please use my links in there because I'm like 4 referrals away from renewing my companion pass. So that would mean a lot to me and Lincoln because we've got some great travel plans for next year. We'd like to continue the companion pass as well. And that would ensure that to happen. But the cool news is, Lynn, between Laura and I, even after we booked this, after I booked like 2 trips to Disneyland, 2 trips to Detroit on points, you were saying you could do this and get 5 or 6 trips a year on your family. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. Well, after I did all the tricks, we're still sitting on 250,000 Southwest points.
Yeah.
And
that's a lot you can do a lot with that.
Yeah, you can do an awful lot with that, especially if you've got a companion pass.
Right.
Like,
And
like
let's remind everyone, when you have a companion pass, one person flying with you pays no points ever. And so right there, that's a key trick in stretching your points is that one of you never pays any points, So that's why
Yeah.
it's so important. And that's always step number 1 of what I teach people is how to always have a companion pass. Because when you, like you're mentioning, to earn the pass, you have to collect 135,000 points. So that refills your pot of points every 2 years and make sure that one of you never has to pay any points. So 2 key benefits there.
Yeah, and just to be even more clear here, with the Southwest program and the companion pass deal, nobody has to pay anything other than the $5.60 per person tax that the federal government gets. Like you
Right.
can book the first person with a companion pass on points, click and pay $12 round trip, click a button, add the companion, they pay $12 round trip. And now both of you are flying round trip for some points in $24. Like it's just an amazing deal. Like,
And as much as you want while you have the pass, that's even more amazing. Not just once, like
yeah,
Delta, right? But however many flights you want to take and add that companion.
yeah. I mean, literally, like when I told you guys we could have like island hopped on Southwest, we had 2 companion passes, so we would have had to pay roughly $60 a person in points for 3 people. And then the 2 kids would have went for free. It would have worked in Hawaii just as well.
Yeah.
And
Anywhere they fly,
yeah,
Caribbean, Mexico, wherever you want to go.
yeah, it is the best bang for your buck for families in travel hacking combined. Now, if you're flying single and you're not taking people with you, you kind of lose some of the magic there, but most people travel with somebody.
Or at some point they do, right? Like even if you travel single some of the time, at some point you're going to bring a friend or a parent or something, with you on a trip. So because we have members who like single parents who they've now sent their kids off to college, right? And so the kid's not going with them anymore, but now they found, they bring friends with them and they go on different things. And, sometimes they travel by themselves, but yeah, it's an amazing, Chad, I wonder, looking back, you're talking about how, you learned it, but you hadn't really gotten to experience it in full. And this whole idea of kind of, it looks too good to be true. Like it sounded too good.
Mhm.
To be able to take 4 to 6
That was
trips
Laura's
a year.
exact take when I pitched this and laid this out to her. She's like,
Yeah.
"No, this can't happen. This is too good."
So what would
And I
you
was like,
what would you tell yourselves looking back now? Like how do you demonstrate it's not too it does sound too good to be true, 100%.
well, I mean, we got 5 people from Detroit to LA, LA to Honolulu, and then all back home. And I don't know, Lynn, what did we spend? Maybe $100 in the $5.60 fees, and then probably I'm gonna estimate high $400 in annual fees between 3 credit cards, maybe 500 if you count the Sapphire annual fees in there. So for 500, $600, we got everybody to go from Detroit to LA to Honolulu. And if I price this out, Lynn, that's like $10,000 worth of flights.
Yeah.
And then you add the rooms that we got from Hyatt, which was, in LA, north of like $250 a night. And I think we ended up having to pay for parking there and a little bit of like weird tax or resort fee or something. So it was like $150 at the resort, all in for this Hyatt Medical Center. And it was a Hyatt house, like their apartment style, built right next to a medical center for families that are coming back in and residents and everybody else that's going to have to come in and stay a little bit while getting treatment at a hospital is what
Yeah.
the place was designed for. And there was a Chipotle in the like ground floor level of it, which was just amazing because that's my son and I's favorite restaurant, and the whole family likes it. And I'm sorry, when you're on vacation and you can eat at a Chipotle, that's a money saving trick right there. Okay. Yeah. Like it's not super expensive to eat there, and having it there was just even another mile stretcher and point stretcher. So yeah, I can't say enough great things about Hyatt House LA if you're going to go to Universal Hollywood, because it was probably a 25 minute drive there. Nothing's close in LA, and Hollywood is just the worst area of LA, in my opinion, to drive around. Once we were in Orange County, down where Disneyland is, I was like, oh my God, this is more normal traffic, and it's not all bumper to bumper everywhere.
Yeah. And you said you rented a car?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because we flew into Long Beach.
Around LA, but.
Well, I looked at that, and with 5 people in their bags, I would have been taking Uber XLs.
Yeah.
And it would have been an hour plus ride to go from Long Beach up there. And then I had to get another Uber XL to get us from hotel to Universal. And then if we wanted to do any running around or whatever else.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, it was cheaper for me to just rent the car.
Okay. Yeah.
And because I got the car for like, I want to say $370-ish. And I paid for a minivan and ended up not getting a minivan out of it, but that's still not bad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good deal. We did Disneyland last Thanksgiving, and we stayed at the Thompson in that area. And it's a Hyatt as well. And it was fine. It was small. But like I said, it's in Hollywood, Sunset Strip area, Walk of Fame and whatever. So everything's kind of small there. And then my son, I was actually out in LA this summer taking film classes at UCLA and then doing an internship out there. But anyway, he and my husband stayed at the Andaz, is another one that's Andaz. Forgive me, that's the correct way to say it. I always say it wrong. Andaz. The Andaz in Hollywood, which they reported was nicer than the Thompson, but more points though.
Yeah, I've heard everybody rave about those two ones in LA. And the reason why we didn't book them is we had 5 people and the rooms only sleep up to 4, which would have meant I would have had to book 2 rooms. And so Hyatt House LA was actually less points because it was one room that could accommodate everybody.
Yeah. And the Thompson, I can tell you, we had 4 in that, and that was too tight. But we survived. It was 2 nights or something.
Yeah,
so Hyatt is a great points redemption when it comes to staying free. Like they are the best of the bunch of the major chains. You will pay way fewer points at a Hyatt. So we talk a lot about Hyatt and Families Fly Free. And in fact, we just had a webinar this summer about how to achieve their highest level status. That was really, really good. That's a little trickier, but it's absolutely doable. And then you save even more money. You get like free breakfast, you get free club level. I
wouldn't have paid for resort fees. I wouldn't have paid for parking. Yes,
right.
It would have been
upgrade
nice.
To suites. And I haven't done that, but we had a member who has lead the webinar. And I'm intrigued for sure.
Yeah, it's the Southwest deal plus the Hyatt deal, and they're both with Chase on the same ecosystem here.
Right. That's the key. That's the key to simplicity, is just working Chase and then moving points around where you need them.
Yeah, and let's come back into that as well, because I have come full circle back onto the simplicity level. And
have you? Have we convinced you on that?
Yeah, I mean, it only took like opening up like 10 cards in 2 years, right? Between the personal side and the business side. And like half of them were, cards you recommended, but half of them were, I'm going to go play with this.
Right.
And I'm going to, now I'm into the space. I'm going to go poke around and see what else I can find. And I'm coming back around to, okay, I might not earn the best here or there or whatever, but I really, really, really like this US Bank Altitude Reserve card. It's got some weird things to it. But in all honesty, Lynn, I never would have got there had you not taught me about the Capital One Venture X and Pay Yourself Back program. Because the US Bank is like 4.5% back if you do it all right on everything that you spend with an Apple Wallet, which I'm an Apple Wallet fanboy. And the Capital One Venture X is like 2% back. So I will take 4.5 with some extra hoops over that. But in all honesty, Lynn, I never would have got there had you not got me to the Capital One Venture X card first.
Yeah, and we like that card. It's one that can help you cover Disney park tickets and even accommodations and dining at Disney, with a few little tricks there. And it's just very simple to use. I like it just kind of to help cover anything else that you can't book in points. Like you can't book Disney park tickets in points, you can't book an Airbnb in points, and you can do it with this card. And I also am loving that they now have their own lounge system. So if you have the Capital One Venture X, which is the card we're typically recommending, you get access. They have lounges in the 3Ds, Dallas, Denver, and Dulles in Washington, D.C. So now you said you got to experience one, right? So I'd love to hear what it was like.
Yeah, so I've been to the Denver one, and it is on par with the best of clubs. Like it is, American Express typically does a really good club. If Chase owns it and it's Chase brand, there's a few of those popping up now.
Yeah,
they're pretty good.
That's a new one.
But these guys are like right up there. I even think they're better than most Delta Sky clubs, because I remember I'm a Delta loyalist here, and you had to kind of wean me away from them.
They helped a little bit too by making things harder last year, right?
Yeah. They messed over all their frequent flyers pretty bad, so they helped ease the process. And yes, so that's a key thing here as well. Because remember, I'm used to Sky Clubs and direct flights from Detroit pretty much everywhere. And so coming into some of the priority pass lounges that are kind of meh, it's like you just have to reset expectations to go, well, it may or may not be better than buying something retail there. And on the trip, a couple of times I did have to pay retail for my food in the airports because I couldn't get into a Sky Club because I wasn't flying Delta. And yeah, that didn't make me happy. Like the $31 Burger King meal for like a Whopper meal at Burger King for $31 was just a little bit ridiculous in Hawaii.
Yeah, I feel like, it's getting to be like that just everywhere in general. It's crazy, but extra so in airports, and I'm sure even more in Hawaii. But yeah, we've had several other members check out the Capital One lounges in Dallas and Denver, and they both just gave rave reviews that it was just so nice, and they loved it. So I think that's going to be a perk of holding that card is if you've never been in like a priority pass airport lounge, like you probably will be like, yay, I'm in an airport lounge. But those of us that have been doing it for a while, they used to be nice, and now they have just steadily declined. They're crowded. The food options are not great. You're lucky if you can find a seat. So these are, that's very appealing to me to be able to use a much nicer lounge just by holding this card.
Yeah, now don't get me wrong. Every time I've been to the Denver one, there's been a 15, 20, 25 minute wait to get in.
Oh, okay. That's good to
know. But it was worth the wait. Okay.
And you can check in their app, which is kind of cool, to put yourself on the wait list. And then I assume it sends you a text or something when you're in.
Yeah, I didn't know about the app. So I just went up to somebody who was at the bottom of the escalators going up into the lounge, and they put my stuff into an app, and I did get a text saying, hey, come back.
Yeah, add the Capital One. It's just the regular Capital One app, and then you can put yourself, and it'll tell you what the wait times are and stuff for the different lounges.
Oh, I'm going to have to check that out. Yeah, I'm learning something even more every time we talk, Lynn. It's, so park tickets at Universal, I did use your credit card cash back tricks to pay myself back for the $600 of park tickets at Universal. I ended up having to buy 3 single day tickets and 5 early entry tickets to Super Nintendo Land. And it came out to $600 on the nose with the annual pass holder discount, because I bought an annual pass for Lincoln and I, because we went last summer 3 days and then won this. And the math just worked out that way. And then you also get the food discounts on everything that you buy there because you're an annual pass holder. So
That's good.
And then we didn't have to pay for parking because we're annual pass holders, right? And so that's the little pro tip there is don't be afraid to upgrade one person in your party to an annual pass when you're going to a theme park just to get the food discounts, the free parking, and the other perks. So it will quite often pay for itself. So I knew that trick, and I actually used the Saver One card to do that, which is the sister card at the Capital One Venture X. Earns just a little bit better than the Venture X does, and you can combine the points there. And so that's what I ended up doing on that one. I know that's the level of simplicity isn't there, Lynn, that we're talking about. But the good news is if I ever travel internationally, both those Capital One cards don't have international or foreign transaction fees.
Yeah.
So they're like permanently in my wallet. They're not going anywhere because they're, the Capital One Venture X card is $395 a year. I've already got the 300 of the 395 back off of booking a flight to Detroit through their portal. And then I'll take the points in and erase out the other part of it whenever it comes in as well.
Yeah.
It's like a no-brainer card to come back in and keep if you travel once a year.
Well, and we just did a webinar on how to get in, like with your various airport lounge options and which cards give you access and how to get in the lounges and how to activate it and all that. But Capital One is definitely the least expensive of the cards that give you lounge access. And it does, as you're saying, cover its own annual fee because you get the 10,000 miles every year, which are worth $100 of travel. And I just wanted to explain briefly to how it works because it's it's different than earning points on a card and then using your points to book something. So the way it works is you can charge anything that is a travel expense, or that would be the merchant category would be travel, to this card. You can book in their portal. They have their own portal like Expedia. Or you can just book direct with Delta or book direct with Hyatt or whoever, and charge it to the card. And then you have 90 days to go back in and use any points, miles that you've accumulated with them to pay for the cost. And your points are worth 1 cent. So it's interesting in that way. I like that you have the 90 days to cover it, and you can actually, if you charge your expense to the card, you actually earn miles by charging that expense that you could then use to help cover the expense, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's like if I spend $1,000 on a hotel room, I'm going to earn points on my $1,000 of spend, but then I can use more points to come back in and erase it or pay myself back and make the charge go away.
Right.
And that mindset of what you taught me there was just brilliant. Right. And so that Capital One card is going nowhere, even if I just use it for one trip a year, because it gives me access to all of those lounges and it covers its own weight. You know what I'm saying? It's not like it's a drag to come back in and pay this annual fee when I know I'm going to get it right back.
And it's easy. It's like easy to make up that annual fee. You don't have to be worrying about, did I get all my credits at all these 10 different things and to make sure I got my value back? It's very easy to ensure.
Yeah, it definitely is. And so I will have a link to that, and I'll actually have 2 links to it. So I'm going to put one link in there that's mine. And if you don't have any relationship with Capital One whatsoever right now, use my link. If you do have a Capital One card or something like that, then I'm going to have you use Lynn's link. And the difference is like a personal one versus a commercial one. They won't pay me points if you use my link. I found out the hard way after literally taking my best friend of 30 years and for a year and a half was telling him to get the card, and he finally did. And then they didn't pay me on the links because he has another card with Capital One. So if you've got a card, use Lynn's link. I'll put that in the show notes. If you don't have one, use mine. Somebody needs to get paid for this because we're doing a lot of free advertising for those people.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Chad, that I hear a lot from people, question they have is traveling during the summer. So there seems to be like the idea out there that it's too expensive, even in points, to travel during the summer or during school breaks when you have kids in school. So I thought I'd see if you could share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's really with Southwest and them allowing you to move flights. Like if they change the schedule, that is what allows me to travel in the summer and come back in and not pay exceptionally high rates. But you're still going to pay more than like September. Okay.
Right.
you're gonna pay a little bit more in the summer times than the ultra low times, but Lynn's going to teach you how to come back in and play the game and do all of that. And as an example, Lincoln really wants to come down here for his birthday in February, and which means I've got to go to Detroit and then buy us tickets to come round trip, and because I have to pick him up and bring him here and take him back. And he doesn't have flexibility because it's February break. And there's no deals to be had because it's also a Run Disney weekend during that time period. And it's just insanely expensive time to come to Orlando. Is Run Disney weekend, President's weekend, all of that time. There's no deals to be had, but I've got Lynn's system working for me, and I'm going to pay about half the rate because I heard change tricks and things, just being a Southwest expert and knowing how the system works. And she teaches you all of that in the course. So that's my trick to it, Lynn, is your thing called the hack.
Yeah. Well, and I would say, like you said, it may be more expensive. It might be more points to fly during those times, but the point is you will have the points to do it. So, and I'm a big proponent of use your points how you want. So it might be more to fly then, but if that's when you want to fly and that's where you want to go, you got the points to do it. So do it. And another trick that we have used just over the years is, not always, but sometimes we'll try to pick somewhere that, like, we don't go to Florida over spring break, right? We've been to Utah, we've been to Palm Springs, we've picked warmer places, but that everybody in the world is not going to. We try to look and see what are the trends happening right now. Like, everyone's going to Europe last summer and this summer, so it's ridiculously expensive. So maybe you just pause on that for now and you do more domestic things. That's another way to kind of go at it, is to try to just pick places that are on your list to see, but that maybe everybody's not going to at this particular time of year.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good one. For me, I'm going to Detroit, I'm going to Orlando, I'm going back and forth, I'm going to Disneyland.
But you guys, did New York right?
Yeah, we did like a quick weekend trip to New York as well. Cause my friend and great listener, friend of the show, Shannon, she has a place there and allowed us to stay with her when Bryn and I went one night. And I guess we went up for a weekend and she allowed us to crash at her place, which made New York really affordable. And I think from Orlando to New York is a pretty competitive flight route as well. So I think I got that for around 160, 170-ish round trip, which is not bad. And that was before I got into the point game, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, but that's a great deal to go to New York. I paid that like 20 years ago to go to New York, and I thought it was a great deal then.
Yeah, it's the other part of it is, Lynn, is it's like you get to start to see where the competitive routes are. Right. And like Orlando to New York is a very competitive route. Like, everybody comes to Orlando. So typically coming to Orlando is going to be a little cheaper than going to like Palm Springs or someplace else, or Tampa in Florida. It's just because I feel like if you operate an airline, you have to put a flight into Orlando because the market is demanding it.
Yeah.
So it's like everybody comes here, but nobody hubs here is what kind of annoys me as somebody who owns a house in Orlando. It's like you can get any airline here, but you're not getting direct flights.
But we have direct from Indianapolis to Orlando.
Yeah, I know. I mentioned that because you've said it so many times.
My daughter's boyfriend is big. Like, I would think it would be comparable to Detroit in terms of size, and it's a Midwestern, I don't know. But I mean, we don't have direct to New York City on Southwest, for example. Yeah. So that's one. Sometimes I'll book a different airline with like my Capital One card, for example. If it's I refuse to go to Dallas in order to go to New York City. Now I'll stop in Washington, D.C. That's fine. But
yeah, well, I've quoted you on the direct flights from Indianapolis here because my daughter's boyfriend is going to college in Indiana.
Oh, where? Well, I don't want to say.
Yeah, it's. I think it's up north, but I still told you can be up north and it's still an hour drive, hour and a half, 2 hours maybe.
Yeah, like South Bend is 2.5 from us, so that's.
Yeah, I think he's a little farther south than that, and but I was like, hey, because he has an annual pass to Walt Disney World, so I was like, if you guys have a break, I can get you a direct flight on Southwest, and I got the points. Just let me know when you're coming, and we'll take care of you guys. So,
well, I
that's
think
kind of a nice thing out of this program.
Yeah.
Is if my kids will give me advance notice, I can get them wherever they want to go. They're going to hear me fuss and mine and whine and cry about it when they tell me, oh, Dad, I want to come, next Tuesday on this. And it's a peak time. Like the flight that I could got for $30 is now 800. Yeah. That's going to drive me nuts, but it's like, give me advance notice and I'll work my magic. I'll make it happen for you. That's kind of a really nice thing, Lynn. And it's like, I've got this little war pile of points here and I can spend them however I need to for that, because if it comes time to like getting my kids to come see me or come something along those lines, we're going to make it rain with points. We're going to spend them.
Yeah. And that, like, we see that a lot. A lot of our members are able to, we say, bless other people with travel. Like, a lot of them will bring friends with them. Maybe they're going on a cruise, and so they can take care of getting them to the cruise destination, and then they, all pay for their cruise or whatever. And we hear a lot of people, with kids in college and that are distant, and they're able to fly them back and forth whenever they want to. Like, we flew our son out to LA and back for his internship this summer, totally free, So that is a real, and it's crazy that we have enough points not only to take care of what we want to do vacation wise, but that we can use them for other people as well. That says something that we have that many,
It's really kind of amazing with that. It really truly is. And there will come a point in time when I will ask my uncle to come see me here in Orlando. Right now, he can't travel. But when it comes to the point where he can and he's ready to, I will have no problem saying, you tell me when you want to come and we're going to get you on a flight and you come down. Because at my last visit, he was kind of interested in coming and all of that. So we'll see what we can do there, Lynn. It's
such a great gift.
Yeah, it really truly is. So it's as well, just to kind of recap this, and maybe I should edit this and put it back up in the front of the show, but to recap Lynn's program, it's Families Fly Free. She's going to teach you how to use 3 Chase cards and 1 Capital One card to come back in and put all of your normal everyday spend on it and get rewards and use some of the other tricks to accumulate more points as well. There's a bunch more than just using the cards, but it all cumulatively adds up to you having enough points to come back in at least 2 trips a year to Walt Disney World for a family of 4. Mm-hmm. I am 100% confident if you live in the US, you can pull that off. And by the way, Lynn, we have some listeners that are in the UK as well, and they've heard your program. They've gotten inspired by it, and they've gotten some British Airlines cards and work the Avios program. And they got 2 free tickets to come to Walt Disney World as well off of this deal. Our stuff really works well for U.S. citizens, people in the U.S.
Yeah.
But the principle of don't leave money on the table with a debit card and get the right points and the right deal and be intentional about it even works for people in the U.K.
Well, and just to add a note to that, we are so blessed in the US to have these cards with all of these amazing perks and even the ability to earn points and do all. I have, friends in Canada. I have people reach out to me all the time, from other countries. And it's, unless you have a US address, you can't get these cards, and their cards don't have all these perks. So just, while they're around, while we can do this, do it. Take your family where you want to go to Disney as much as you want, and know that you've got the cost covered. It truly does work. It's amazing.
I will say this. I've taken your program. I've learned about it, and probably the highest compliment I can give you is you taught me how to think differently, Lynn. So I'm able to take your program and modify it to that US Bank Altitude Reserve card.
Yeah.
And learn about that and go tangle that beast. And I don't know that it's going to be a really good, simple fit for your program, because the redemption rules on there are a little kind of crazy. And I have to do another episode on that later, because I've been talking about it a little bit and I want to come back in and really just dial into that. But I can just tell you the Families Fly Free system is rock solid. You're going to invest in this, and you have a choice. You can have somebody teach you this, and you can hire kind of a professional coach and mentor, or you can spend hours and hours on YouTube and blogs and weed through all of the advice that's oftentimes conflicting. You just got to sort through it all, right?
And there's just no system out there. That's why I wanted to put something together that people could follow step by step. It's just everything out there is just all the things you can do, but which things should you do, and in what order should you do them? And my approach is simple. This is designed to work for busy families who don't want to make this, a full-time hobby or whatever. This is something that takes, once you learn it, a few minutes a week. Would you say that, Chad?
Yeah. I mean, it's really just put your spend on these cards and then pay your cards off. Like, because ain't nothing free if you're paying the bank interest on this. Like,
No, we don't want
that
you to do
doesn't
that.
exist. So that's a fundamental rule 101 is to do this system and to just put it in rinse and repeat mode.
And that's why I like just a couple of cards, because it can help prevent people from getting into a situation where they're not paying off every month. If you just have a couple cards you're dealing with, it's very easy to keep track of those, and you will have all the points that you need to fly wherever you want. You'll be able to do some free stays. I say you can't always stay free, but you should be able to some of the time. And just that ends up saving you thousands of dollars every year.
A ton. Because, and to your point, Lynn, I've limited myself to really 3 out of the 4 main card issuers. Chase is definitely in the running. Capital One is definitely in the running. Well, as a side result of this, I moved all my banking back to Capital One as well for that same simplicity factor.
Yeah.
If I don't want to have 20 apps to log into to manage my money. So
and I do Chase for the same reason.
So I have Chase because I have their cards. I have a personal account there and a business account there. I don't like their checking. So really, I just use them for ATM deposits. If I pick up something for my mom when I'm in Detroit, she always pays me cash, and then great, because I'll get the points for it. But then I got to have the cash, and I just got to go to a Chase ATM, put it in there, and pay the bill. That works out well for me. But it's like I have the Chase cards and app and banks, the Capital One cards and apps and banks. And then because I'm based in Detroit and tied at the hip to Delta, I have to have some Amex cards in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I played a bunch with the Amex card, Lynn. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm sitting on probably 450,000 Amex membership reward points with them. And I feel like a dog chasing the UPS truck. It's like I caught it, but now what do I do with it?
Yeah. And that we have a lot of people come to us like that. I had a woman who she came with a bunch of city points recently, and then she was like, I don't know what to do with these or whatever. And then we figured out a good thing to do with them. They're going to Hawaii. She can book a really cool resort, but then move over, focus just on, like we're saying, these couple of cards and those systems,
Because at the end of the day, I'm like, the simplicity and value is there with Southwest. The value is there with Hyatt. Having it all on Chase is a beautiful thing. And so I'm sitting on these Amex points, and I am going to figure out a trip. I'm probably going to hire one of the professional points people to come back in and do this, because my best friend of 30 years and I, because we're celebrating our 30-year friendship next year by going to Disneyland in Hong Kong and then Disneyland in Shanghai as well.
Awesome.
And yeah, my wife would kill me if I went to Tokyo without her, but she said she's not touching the Chinese one. So I'm good with that. And
yeah, that would be an epic trip.
Yeah, he's a world traveler as well. He's going to be diamond on Delta because Ford flies him all over the planet constantly and, pays 10, 12 grand a ticket for him. So his status on Delta is easy breezy.
Right.
But I just can't get it anymore with going on Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights at that 9:00 flight that never sells out. And it's super, super cheap. They've eliminated me from the status program. And I'm like, that's okay, Delta. We'll figure out a way.
And Delta's my second favorite. So if that, after Southwest, they don't compare, but if I have to fly something else, I would prefer Delta.
Yeah. And I will say this as well. I did a status match from Delta over to Southwest, and that got me in the A-list program.
Oh, that's a good tip.
And I think that really enhanced my experiences with Southwest, because every time we would show up at Long Beach, you would look at that line and it had to be 100 families deep. And just being able to walk up to the priority line and wait for 2 or 3 people to get served, and then they call you over, was a game changer. That took so much stress off of me from not having to stand in line with 100 plus people. It was amazing, Lynn. And so I did complete the status challenge with them. So I have my A-list all the way through July of 2025.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
that's how I ended up doing the status match there. And it really is, it's a game changer as well. So I will figure out, okay, if I'm going to stay loyal to Southwest, how am I going to do this? And as well, I can tell you, Lynn, I cannot fly Southwest on my Detroit to Orlando commutes because I tried it once this year and had a connecting flight out in Baltimore. And I have to take the last flight of the day so I can work all day, fly at night, get home, be at work the next morning. And it really didn't work out because they stranded me in Baltimore and told me it would be 24 hours in Baltimore before they could get me out of there. No hotel rooms, no this, no that, no nothing, no accommodations. So I ended up just paying cash for a Delta flight at 6 a.m. out.
Yeah.
And I got home because Southwest did strand me there.
And
Not happy about that.
Right. That's a bummer. And we experienced not that bad, but some of that this summer. This is the problem with having a connecting flight, right? Is that if your first flight is so delayed that thus too, you might miss your second one, and then you're kind of stuck if it's the last flight of the day. So one fix to that can help is an annual travel insurance policy. So I've carried that for the last 2 years. I've stopped for now just because we don't have any major trips coming up, but that will allow you to book another airline if your airline is delayed significantly enough, pay for it, and then they'll reimburse you. So it can let you get on to wherever you need to go that same day. That was kind of my backup for in case Southwest did that to us, That's one option. And then I am a bit of a Southwest expert nerd, but in flying my husband and son out to LA this summer, no direct flight, of course, from Indianapolis. And so we just had every flight they would be on would be delayed and they were going to miss the second one. And so I was at home. So I was here able to keep moving them to different flights. I could watch it and see okay, this one's running behind. I'm going to switch them. They ended up flying into Burbank instead of Long Beach, is what I originally booked multiple times in order to get them to a connecting flight that was actually going to take off or to an airport that I knew still had another flight that evening that they could get on it was not fun to do. And that's probably the worst experience I've had in all of flying Southwest. And I also think it's a factor of this summer, crazy summer travel. And then this could be a whole nother episode, but Southwest is struggling with not having enough planes because of the Boeing issue. And so I just don't think they have enough planes, period. Normally they could bring in another plane and take care of that delay, right? Sometimes that's happened to me before. Whereas here they don't have any backups. So if something is behind, then there's nothing else they can do about that. So, and my last pro tip would be if any of those things happen to you, you always reach out to Southwest afterward. You can go to their site. I think if you go to southwest.com and help, it's under there, but always ask for a voucher for any delay of more than 2 hours. And so what I did is went back, they were delayed just over and over and over again. And I asked for one for every single one of their flights for each of them. And by law now, they have to give you at least a $75 voucher, but usually they will give you more. And then we have a whole trick inside Families Fly Free where we show you how to cobble together these vouchers so that anyone can use them and they never expire. And
yeah, that was
flights out of these vouchers. So that's one upside. Not fun to go through, though.
Yeah, so I did have to spend about $280 on my direct Delta flight, and I went through that process. I actually had an agent who filled it out for me when I called, and it was just super nice, and she was really cool, and she did it for me. So I got a $200 voucher and then about a $90 voucher as well to make myself whole. I did use that to book a flight on Southwest back to Detroit, but I did it on a Saturday. So I don't have to worry about coming back in and delays and connections and all that other kind of fun stuff. Yeah. So that worked out well. And you mentioned crazy summer, that global IT meltdown thing.
That was crazy.
Was the day we were flying from Detroit to Long Beach. That put about an hour delay in the Southwest flight. Their teams worked
they weren't
around
even
it.
Supposedly affected by it. They were the only airline not affected.
Yeah,
but
I'm not going to say they weren't affected because we had about a 90-minute delay in Detroit before we could take off. But it seemed like they were only using that software to track who was on the plane. And they came up with within hours a workaround solution to get their flights back up and running again. And had we been on Delta, they were down for 4 days figuring that out.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So our whole vacation would have been shot to heck. Yeah,
And I think
that
the
would.
point there is this can happen to any airline, right? And
Yeah, it
so
really can. It's stuff is going to happen when you fly. It gets into the whole thing of why we like direct flights so much better and we prefer
Yeah.
them so much more is because there's just you double the opportunity for Murphy to knock on your door when you're doing all these connections.
Yep, that is true.
And that's
Especially
kind of
during
it.
peak travel times and all that. That's going to increase the risk.
This stuff is going to happen to you no matter who you fly on. That's kind of been my revealing thing because it was before I was this Delta fanboy loyalist. They've destroyed that loyalty. Thank you very much, Delta. Now I start to see, okay, I get the Southwest fanboys that are out there. I really could become one of them if I ever lived in one of their hub cities. I would be tried and true all the way.
And they are generally great to deal with. That's the other thing. When there is a problem, which inevitably is going to happen, 90% of the time, 99% of the time, they are very delightful, I would say, even not just nice, delightful to deal with, usually.
Well, they were really nice in telling me I was stranded in Baltimore for 24 plus hours.
They were nice
right?
about it. Right?
But they had nothing for me. And to make matters worse there, I was only going from Orlando to Detroit then so that I could pick up Lincoln for the companion pass because he's my companion.
Mm,
Otherwise, I would have just met them in California.
right.
But I couldn't. Their flight from Baltimore was going to get me into the Detroit airport at 1:30 in the morning. By the time you wait on bags, you get out of there. Now it's like 2:15. I have an hour drive back to the house in Detroit, pick up the family, and then I had a 6 a.m. departing flight the next day, which meant we needed to leave the house at about the time I was going to arrive. I'm like, this makes no sense, guys. What can you do for me? Can you just send me to LA? Can you come back in and let Lincoln fly free under the circumstances? Because you stranded me here and I can't get my companion? Nope, nothing.
Mm,
No help,
yeah.
no this, no that. And so the only way I was able to pull it off is to buy my own flight on Delta back home. And so I think that's probably the reason why they gave me the love vouchers, even though it was technically a weather delay and I don't think they were obligated to.
Right. But a lot of times if you ask, they will. So that's my tip is always ask. We have members who get them all the time for the most ridiculous things, changes. I only ask if it's a significant delay, but.
Well, this one was significant as well.
Oh, yes.
And
That would definitely.
definitely as well. But I did get to check out the priority pass in Baltimore, complete wah, like cans of Coke and a few snacks that were questionable. Right?
Exactly.
It's nothing to write home about there. But anyways, yeah. So that was my kind of my year of this program. Do I recommend it 100% wholeheartedly? If you want to come back in and travel with your family and you want to come back in and be able to have somebody walk you through all of this stuff, because Lynn's got it laid out there. There's help and support there for questions. They will walk you through the entire program.
If you want a personalized plan as well for your family of what to do exactly in what order.
And it's tried and true and tested. And I'm telling you from somebody who's tried it, challenged it, done competing thoughts and ideas and dove into the whole YouTube realm of this. If you're looking for a simple system, this is it. And it's worth every penny that you're going to pay for it. If you want to go out there and figure it out on your own, you can glean the tips from that we've given you from all of this and piece it all together yourself. But just know you're going to do a lot of work and you're going to make some mistakes along the way. You're probably going to make enough mistakes that you'd have covered Lynn's fee anyway. So it is what it is there. It's the classic do it yourself versus hire a pro. And I can tell you either way you go, as long as you get your family on some phenomenal vacations and you work this whole point and mile game while it's still available to us, because there's legislation that's being discussed that could kind of hinder it and hamper it. So I jump on the train while you got the opportunity.
And it's super fun to to be part of a community of people who are doing the same thing and who are sharing tips with one another, like in our community forum, and rooting each other on. And again, another reason I created this is so that there's a way that you can ask a question, like Chad said. And so if you're unsure about something, or if you're not sure if this is a mistake, you have someone you can go to, get a quick response from. We have an email for members, or you can post in our community, and you'll know you'll get an accurate answer and you'll get it promptly. So you don't have to worry, post to a YouTube video or a blog, wonder if the answer is right or if they will respond, And we have, you fill out a questionnaire when you join that tells us, like, what are your family's goals? How many people in your family? If you have any cards, which ones do you have? So we have all your information. So we can always look at that when you have a question and be like, oh, you have this card and this card. And okay, we'd recommend this. So it's very personalized. That's how I've set it up to be. And we just want you to be successful. And to me, that's how you're successful, is by having that support, having a plan to follow, and being with a community.
Yeah, and not making mistakes on your own.
Yes, absolutely. We can save you a lot of pain. I've made plenty of mistakes myself before I did all this. So, and other members will tell you when they make mistakes so that you don't make the same ones.
Yeah, that's kind of it, guys. So, Lynn, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the program. I'm sure we'll have you back on for some updates, because I know at least come October, when the big promotions come out on the cards and your system just sings, we'll have you back on to do a show there. If anything in here has made sense to you, please go to mydvcpoints.com/302. There's a link there to sign up for Lynn's program. There'll be a link there for the cards that I like and recommend. And I'll even have the little disclaimer: if you have a Capital One card, use this link. If you don't have one, please use this one as well. Any other final thoughts before we wrap this up, Lynn?
No, I'm just so glad that after you've been able to work the system, that it's worked so well for you. So, and thanks for all your kind comments.
Yeah, as well. And how do you argue with like $10,000 plus of free travel for $1,000? Like, it's, shut up and take my money. I'll do that exchange any day.
Right. I agree. It's a good deal.
Well, that wraps up this show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Huge shout out of thanks to our sponsors over at DVC Resale Market, DVC Rental Store, and Monera Financial. Also, a huge shout out of thanks to our Patreon program as well. If our content has been a blessing to your life and you would like to share something back with us to help me offset some of the expenses of putting on the show, I would love to have you join us over at patreon.com/mydvcpoints. And please sign up on the website, not their app. Their app will charge you 30% more, and that's just 30% of the fees going to Apple. So patreon.com/mydvcpoints if you'd like to support our show and everything else there. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Hopefully you learned something in today's show that'll help you go out there, not only plan something magical for your family, but plan something almost free with taxes and credit card annual fees. It will be free for your family to go and create some wonderful, magical memories of time you'll never get back with them. They're only little for a little while. And as a dad who's getting ready to drop off his first one at college, I'm cherishing all of my Disney family memories that I have so far, and knowing that it's going to change in the future. Maybe I'll get to repeat this with some grandkids later in life, but I know I'm going to go into a drought where they go through their 20s